In today's video, being a 380 centric channel, the topic we are going to take a look at is going to be choosing the best 380 ammunition for you. I'm sorry viewer, but this is one of those rare videos where we aren't going to hit the range as much as we're going to talk about some topics. And while we're showing some specific ammunitions on the screen, we aren't really going to tell you what one ammo is best or what one or two ammos are best. What we're going to discuss in this video is the different types of 380 ammunitions available and why you might choose those ammunitions. The secondary purpose of this video is to allow the community an opportunity to have input on a future video. As many of our longtime viewers are aware, come springtime, before the cows are in the pasture and the corn is in the field, we like to hit the training center and do a gel test video. What I'm thinking for this year's video is jacketed hollow point versus monolithic hollow point versus bonded hollow point. As far as a 380 personal protection, home defense, personal carry firearm goes, is there any difference in the end result between those three? That's what I'm thinking we're going to take a look at this year, but let me know what you think in the comments as we get into some of the various ammos in the video here today. Now, a couple of notes here to start the video is one of the ammunitions that I have coming to test that I don't have on hand yet and that I have not shot yet personally is the Federal Premium Hydra-Shock Deep. This is a 99 grain hollow point ammunition. I've put some marketing material on the screen. Federal mentions such things like clean burning, low flash propellants, heavier bullet, lower velocity, decreases felt recoil and noise. Sure about that one. Expanded diameter and weight retention produce the desired penetration for personal defense situations without over-penetrating. Bullet nose profile, nickel-plated case, and Federal's unique primer provide the ultimate in function and reliability. Optimized for less felt recoil, more reliable cycling, and better control with subcompact pistols. Some version of many or all of those bullet points, many of the manufacturers and ammunition we're going to talk about today, they're going to say some version of that, so we aren't going to really repeat that across the board. Important note is just take away, we don't have this ammo yet, but we're going to test it in the spring. Another mentionable is, in part of this video, I'm going to show some pictures of the Underwood ammunition. I thought I had the 380 ammunition on hand still. Turns out I shot it all in one of the last videos. Don't worry, we have more coming. The pictures I'm going to show are of 38 Special. What we're more interested in today's video is the design than, say, that picture. So let's move on to the heart of today's video. As far as range ammo and target ammo goes, the ammo you're most likely to buy for your 380 is going to be some Full Metal Jacket ammunition. So what is Full Metal Jacket? Besides being a great movie that shows the versatility of Vincent D'Onofrio, I like to think of that bathroom scene as sort of a dream where it didn't really happen, and later in Leonard's life he went on to be a very successful detective in New York working under major crimes. But what is Full Metal Jacket ammunition? A Full Metal Jacket bullet is a small arms projectile consisting of a soft core, often lead, encased in an outer shell or jacket of a harder metal. An example of that is going to be this Cell and Below FMJ or Full Metal Jacket 380 ammunition. This is a 92 grain projectile. I chose this as an example because it is a good example of how 380 can be named in various places. In the United States where I live, the ammunition is typically found labeled 380 Auto or 380 ACP, though in other parts of the world where this same ammunition is sold, you'll notice this box is labeled also as 9mm Browning Court, which is another name for the 380 ACP, or 9mm short, 9mm Browning. You get the idea. Of interesting note, I thought it was kind of funny that when I looked at Wiki, the Wiki had a very similar looking Cell and Below 380 round as what we are using in today's example. Besides being very cost effective, the FMJ 380 ammunition I would say is going to be the most common type of 380 ammunition you're going to find. While you might not see this same exact brand of ammunition in your store, I would say the Full Metal Jacket round nose 85 to 95 grain projectile 380 ammunition is probably the most common 380 ammunition you'll find in stores, and will probably be the most cost effective if such a thing exists in 380 ammo. One important note for today's video is what ammunition is legal is very heavily dependent on your area and the laws therein. Where I live, I can buy not only Full Metal Jacket rounds, but also, say, hollow points. Not everybody in not all states, that same thing is going to be true. Another type of common ammunition you'll find available in 380, among other calibers, is what is called a monolithic bullet. A monolithic bullet is a bullet constructed of one solid material, usually metal, and they do not have multiple components. Unlike jacketed hollow points, monolithic bullets do not have a jacket, cup, core, or tip. They are instead a solid material, typically copper or a copper zinc brass alloy, although historically any bullet made of a single type of metal can be referred to as a monolithic bullet. The first bullet that we are going to discuss that I consider a monolithic bullet is going to be one that is very popular among commenters on the channel, which is going to be the Underwood Extreme Defender, or some version of it. While you will often see this Extreme Defender projectile associated with Underwood on the internets like on Reddit, a similar projectile is also sold by manufacturers like Lee Bullets. I hope I said that name correctly. This Extreme Defender projectile is a solid copper CNC milled projectile designed to give you a maximum penetration and also what they call a maximum permanent wound channel. I've put a bit of the marketing material up on the screen. The Extreme Defender ammunition has an optimized nosed flute, total weight, and velocity to achieve a penetration depth of up to 18 inches with a permanent wound cavity that is just enormous. No other expanding hollow point comes close to achieving anywhere near this diameter and volume. As I mentioned a moment ago, there are certain states where an expanding projectile or a hollow point is not legal. This is where in the marketing material, the mention of that permanent wound cavity and the difference versus the expanding hollow point, that's probably important to those people who don't live in a state where they can get hollow points. Now, whether it is larger or not, I have no idea. We've not tested it yet. In the past, when I have shot the Extreme Defender, it is one that in my firearms, I would say I have not had the greatest accuracy nor reliability, unfortunately. That could just be me. That's not, I would say, representative of this ammunition on the whole. Though I would say I have multiple firearms that are not a fan of what I'm going to call the Phillips head screwdriver tip of this ammunition, and it has feed problems for me. Again, that could just be me and my firearms. It could work perfectly fine in your firearms. Test it first, which we should have mentioned this at the start. Any ammunition that you're going to purchase and use and carry as your personal protection ammunition, make sure you have tested it first. Just because it works for me or doesn't work for me doesn't mean you will have those same results. As far as things like recoil, I did not think the Underwood ammunition had more or less felt recoil than what I'm going to say other 380 personal carry ammunitions. I didn't notice anything like, say, muzzle flash. So the mentionables for me would be, for me, this ammunition was not very reliable nor accurate compared to some of the other ammunitions we're going to talk about today. That could just be me and my firearms. Another ammunition on my list of what I consider a monolithic ammunition is the Fort Scott Munitions Tumble Upon Impact Spun Copper 380. Now this has a lot of what I consider marketing material fluff on the box, the Tumble Upon Impact TUI and solid spun copper. Well, I mean, yeah, that solid spun copper does sound cool. In my experience with the, what I'm going to call the TUI ammo, In reading about it on the internet, it is not very well received. In my experience with it, in the chronograph, it is among what I would say the lower velocity of the 380 ammos that we're going to talk about today. Though, on the flip side, out of firearms like, say, my LCP Max, I would say for my particular LCP Max, this ammunition is its favorite ammunition. I get by far the best accuracy and consistent groups with this Fort Scott TUI ammo, and it's what I have loaded in its magazines. There's a lot of people that are going to have a lot of thoughts on that, but that's just me and my preference. I shoot my LCP Max the best with this ammunition, which is why I use it. That's just me. Your choice will probably be different, but maybe it's not. The third type of ammunition that we're going to talk about today is what I'm going to consider the most common that you're going to find as far as home defense, personal protection, concealed carry ammunition where I live. If you live in a state where you cannot legally purchase a hollow point ammunition or expanding ammunition, you can fast forward. The ammunition that I consider the most common for 380 for personal protection or home defense is going to be jacketed hollow point. Now, similar to the full metal jacket we talked about a moment ago, where you have a softer metal core encased in a outer jacket or shell, the main difference between the full metal jacket and the jacketed hollow point is the hollow point is a type of expanding projectile, with the jacketed hollow point being the jacketed version of that. Now, that jacket can be copper, brass, or any number of other materials. While I don't have a fancy highlight text portion to describe that, the simple analogy I would give is, let's say you have an open beer in a koozie. That's kind of like a jacketed hollow point, as our most imperfect example ever. Let's move on a little bit. The first example we're going to talk about is the Sierra Outdoor Master Copper Jacketed Hollow Point, or just JHP. This might be phased out and might be coming out as, I want to say, Sierra Sports Master, but as far as I can tell, other than name and a color update, it's going to be the same thing. In my experience with this Sierra Outdoor Master in 380 is we got very good accuracy with it, though some firearms like my Kimber Micro 380, it is not a fan of how big the cavity is on this hollow point, and it has feed problems. Now, I have a couple other 380s, and actually a couple Micro 380s in the crew that have that same problem. And so if you have a 380 that is not a fan of a large cavity hollow point, this is one that might give you problems. Though on the flip side, it is one that can be very cost effective. Usually when I buy them, I find them for anywhere from like $13.99 to $16.99 on sale, and I buy, like 4 boxes or 6 boxes or whatever. Now, the downside, I would say, to this ammo, besides it having some feed problems in some firearms, is in the firearms that we have tested this ammo in and shot meat targets and other things, we have had no hollow point expansion, or if there is any, there's little to no hollow point expansion. I consider this one on par with when I test full metal jacket ammo. It basically does like clean pencil drilled holes through things, no hollow point expansion. If your firearm likes the ammo, it can be very accurate. And for some people, full metal jacket ammo or that type of performance in a lower velocity 380 will be sufficient. But if you're looking for something that is specifically an expanding ammunition, in my experience, why this ammo looks like it should be, it doesn't actually expand. The second example of the jacketed hollow point that we have for today's presentation is the Federal Punch ammunition. Now, there's some people that watch some videos and they're like, "Bro, Bacon, you're just biased. You hate this ammunition." And it's true, I am a little biased against this ammunition, but that is due to how it has performed for me across the product line, just not, say, on one particular caliber out of one particular firearm. I think in some calibers, like 22 long rifle, it is much worse than others. But even in 380 and 9mm, I would say for the jacketed hollow point or personal protection ammo I've tried, it is among the least reliable. I've had the most consistent failures with Federal Punch. I want to say 1 per box, which when you have a box of 20, That's pretty bad. Because there are numerous different jacketed hollow point flavors out there, we're going to have many examples here today. The third of them is this Winchester Silver Tip. This is an 85 grain defensive jacketed hollow point. It has a very flashy looking silver bullet, which is, that silver tip. In my experience, this ammunition has been very accurate and reliable. All of my 380s, it shoots well in. The one thing I have not had the opportunity to test on this ammunition yet is how well does it expand? Does it expand at all? We're not sure on that yet. This might be one of the ammos that we test in the ballistics gel test this spring. If you'd like to see that, let us know in the comments. Now, one mentionable that I will say in this video, if you are watching this video close to the time of its production, is at least where I live, for at least the last month or so, including the day of this video's production, this ammunition has been on what to me appears to be closeout or clearance prices in stores. It's, I don't know, $10 cheaper than what I normally see it at, such that the last few times I've done the gun store circuit, I have bought like 4 boxes of it because it's so cheap. And it's like, well, even if it's not that great, I can at least use it while breaking in a new 380 down the road. So anyway, if you live in an area like me where this ammo is now extremely reasonably priced and your firearm likes this ammunition, you might think about stocking up on it. The next example we have, this is Remington Ultimate Defense. Now this is one that I believe you will see labeled a few different ways potentially. Sometimes I see it labeled full-size handgun, sometimes it'll be compact or subcompact handgun. I've tested it in the past, and I'm still waiting to get a few different ones in again to test it on camera. But when I tested it in the past, I could not find a difference in terms of felt recoil, chronograph results, reliability, accuracy. I think they're all the same, and they just get put in a different box and sold at slightly different price points. The Ultimate Defense uses a brass jacketed hollow point. This would be an example of one where it's brass instead of, say, a copper jacketed like most of the ones or all of the ones we have looked at up to this point. So this would be this would be an example of one that's using a different metal as that jacket material. That brass jacket gives it a little heavier projectile weight, with the idea being they're probably looking for a little farther penetration to go with that expansion. In the past, when using this ammunition, of all the ammunition in today's list, I would say this is one that had the most felt recoil in my experience. Accuracy was very good on it, though it is another one that we have not done a expansion test on. So if you would like to see that, let us know in those comments. Another mentionable here is similar to things like that Sierra Outdoor Master is this ammunition has a very large cavity on that hollow point. And like on firearms like my Kimber Micro 380, this is another one that it gives it some feed problems. The last example we have for today's jacketed hollow points is the SIG Elite Defense V-Crown jacketed hollow point. This is a very popular, and I'm going to say a reasonably cost-effective ammunition. It's one of the more budget-friendly, if such a thing exists, ammunitions out there. Now, curiously, since the pandemic, and even more recently, you will find this ammunition where sometimes it has a nickel-plated brass and sometimes it's just brass in the box. The interesting thing here to me is I feel like there is a noticeable difference visually when you look at the projectile in the brass projectiled ammo versus the nickel-plated brass, as you can see here. Even though the one picture is a little less in focus due to my camera not liking taking pictures of the nickel-plated brass, if that was in focus, it would still look like a smooth bowl compared to the more segmented cavity in the brass one, we'll say, on the left. We have done tests with one of these ammos in the past. I believe one of our gel tests last year we did the SIG Elite Defense versus the Spear Gold Dot, which we're going to come back to here in a little bit. Though I don't recall if that was the brass or the nickel-plated brass one. I am very curious if there is a chronograph and an expansion difference between these two. And luckily now I have enough of both to where we might actually test that in a later video. So let us know in the comments if that is something you are curious about, like I am. As far as reliability, accuracy goes, this ammo has been very good for us. And it did have very good hollow point expansion. At least one of the two. I don't remember again if it was the brass or the nickel-plated brass, if there is a difference. But the one that we did test had very good hollow point expansion in our video last year as well. And priced, I feel like you can find this from about $16.99 to $19.99 a box, which even though you only get 20 in a box, that's still pretty good for the home defense personal protection ammo as far as, say, that goes. So let's move on. The next example we have here, now this is one that looks like a hollow point ammunition, and at first I always thought of it as a hollow point ammunition, but it turns out in the eyes of the G-Man, it is not. This is the Hornady Critical Defense. This is loaded with a 95 grain FTX tip. It's kind of like a ballistics tip. One thing I find very interesting about this ammo is while it does expand and mushroom upon impact, in some states, and you will want to look this up if you live in a state that has weird laws like this, in some states where you cannot legally carry hollow point ammunition, you can legally carry this critical defense ammunition. Look that up if you're in one of those weird areas, but this might be an option for you, so keep that in mind. Now this is another one where before the pandemic it was sold in the nickel-plated brass, though since then you will find it, and I feel like more often than not now, in the just regular brass. In my experience, I have not noticed a difference in terms of performance, velocity, reliability, or accuracy between the two, though there are whispers in corners of the internets of some people feeling like there are some quality control concerns with this ammo. Now, I have not had those issues, though, again, make sure you test your ammunition before you just settle upon any particular ammunition. One thing I can say is at least one of my 380s, when I first got it and was going through the break-in period, it did not like critical defense. Though once broken in, it's been flawless. And it threw me through a loop when that happened because critical defense is among my most favorite 380 ammo. And so I did not expect it to not work because up until then, it's basically worked extremely well for me through every 380 that I use it in. Now, I get very good accuracy with this ammunition. I get very consistent velocity with this ammunition in terms of between rounds of the same firearm. The expansion of this round has also been very good. We get very consistent expansion. I almost call it hollow point expansion, but this isn't really considered a hollow point legally. There's more. Yes, wait, there is more. The next that we're going to talk about is a type of hollow point called the monolithic hollow point. The first time I looked at an ammunition that I was aware was this type of ammunition was the Norma MHP, and I only knew that because they were very marketing heavy on it being the monolithic hollow point. It had a nice booklet opening of the marketing material that made claims that made me go, no way could it do all that. And the longtime viewers of this channel will know that I was highly critical of this ammo way back then. Though it has since become one of my most favorite ammunitions, and 9mm, I feel like the marketing material have lived up to the fluff. Now, what makes this ammo, I feel like, a bit controversial is it does look like something out of a John Woo movie. It looks like something you would see carried in like Replacement Killers or something. It has the color of the brass and the color of the cartridge, or they just look futuristic and cool, and probably almost too cool. The hollow point expansion showed on the box is no joke. In our test with it, it expanded every bit that much and probably looked twice as scary. It's a very scary ammo to see perform in a ballistics gel block. One question I think people have, though, is this ammo tailored to perform against that ballistics gel block? Which I think is a question you can have about many of these ammos. Do they just do the expansion you see on the box in a ballistics gel block and then in real life not have expansion to meet that performance? Now, some people say yes, some people say no on this one. In my experience so far, I've been very happy with it, though it is one where, like I said before, I thought that monolithic hollow point was just marketing fluff, and I thought monolithic didn't mean anything. And in fact, when I Googled it back then, my spelling must have been so bad that it didn't even help me out, because clearly there are results on Wikipedia that would have shown me the error of my ways in that thought. Some of the potential advantages of a monolithic hollow point are that you do not have separation of the jacket and the inner core, so you have a projectile that maintains its mass theoretically through the body, which could give you better penetration. Now, in our test with it, we had very good penetration that matched, in our experience, what we got with the 9mm ammo, again, in a ballistics gel block. Our accuracy and reliability of this ammo has been very good. If there is one knock on it, it's that, as far as I can tell, it's not available anymore in the US. Another example of the monolithic hollow point that I have shot quite a bit in the past without realizing it was the monolithic hollow point is a Barnes TAC XPD. Similar to the Norma MHP, this is a solid copper hollow point, though as you can see from the pictures, the design of this one is a little bit different. Now, this is one where we have had very good accuracy, reliability, and for a 380 velocity from, though we have not done a expansion test on it. So if you would like to see an expansion test with this ammo, let us know in the comments. One thing I will say that is most memorable to me about this ammo is something about the powder on this ammo. Whenever I shoot it, it smells like fireworks, which sometimes is awesome. But then when it's not fireworks time of the year and you wish you could be setting off fireworks, not so much. Anyway, let's move on. We have finally reached the last type of ammunition that we are going to talk about in today's video. What type is that? That is the bonded hollow point. What is a bonded hollow point? I had no idea bonded hollow points were different than other hollow points until about a month and a half ago. Let's get into it. The term bonded bullet indicates that the bullet's core, usually made of a lead alloy, is either chemically or molecularly bonded. Think welded to the bullet's protective outer shell or jacket. The purpose of bonding the two materials together is to ensure that the dense yet soft lead core does not separate from the jacket when the bullet strikes its target and encounters resistance. One example of a bonded hollow point is what I think might be the internet's favorite 380 hollow point, the Speer Gold Dot hollow point. Now, I thought Gold Dot hollow point was just marketing fluff like Monolithic hollow point, which 0 for 2 on those. It turns out Gold Dot hollow point is sort of a proprietary term for how Gold Dot bonds the outer shell to the lead core of their projectile. So that Gold Dot hollow point is a bonded hollow point where you get the hollow point expansion without the core separating from that outer jacket. Oh, the more you know GIF inserted here. In the past on the channel, we have done the chronograph accuracy, reliability testing of this ammunition, and it has been very good. We have also had very good hollow point expansion from this ammunition. We compared it in the past against the SIG Elite Defense, though back then we didn't know to look for any potential difference between, say, jacketed hollow point and bonded hollow point, and if potential fragmentation affected penetration of those rounds. That's something we might be looking at here in the spring, depending on what the community feels. Another example of a bonded hollow point would be Winchester Defender, Stop the Threat, bonded, jacketed hollow point. From what I can tell, this ammunition uses a different bonding process compared to what Speer does, though both are very cagey on that, probably due to the proprietary nature. But in either event, this is an ammo that we have not tested before, and we are curious to see how it performs, especially compared to things like the Speer Gold Dot that I feel like it is directly competing against. Let us know in the comments of this video if you too are curious to see how this ammo stacks up compared to things like the Speer Gold Dot hollow point. We have reached the conclusion to yet another video. Now, in today's video, we didn't hit the range like some people probably wished, though we are setting that up for the future, and many long-term viewers of the channel will recognize many of the ammo that we talked about today from past videos. So what ammo is best in 2024? Well, that question is still outstanding, and for many people, it's going to be very heavily regionally or locally dependent. You might live somewhere where jacketed hollow points or expanding ammunition is not legal. And if so, many of the choices we showed in today's video are probably not options for you. though we did show some potentially good ones for you to consider there as well. The question outstanding at the end of today's video is, which ammo would you like to see in this spring's gel test video? We have at least 2 good blocks of gel. Cross your fingers and we might have one more, though odds are it's looking like it's going to be 2 blocks. Which ammo would you like to see us put through the paces in those 2 blocks? Let us know in the comments. We hope you found today's video useful. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a good day. If you're still watching at this point and you're looking for something new, how about finding out how bad those locks that firearms manufacturers include with their firearms really are, and start a new series.